It feels like we have been waiting forever for Super 7's G.I. Joe Ultimates toy line. And with the arrival of their San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Cobra Battle Android Trooper Comic Edition, the wait is finally over. So, was it worth the wait? Well, I'll unbox and share my thoughts on the Super 7 Cobra B.A.T Comic Edition. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Gladfelter here. Oh my goodness, it has been over a year since Wave 1 of G.I. Joe Ultimates from Super 7 was announced, and we finally have a figure from this toy line. We do not have Wave 1 out yet. Yes, they did have it on display at Comic-Con as well as their Cobra Takeover shop in downtown San Diego, and they looked really good. But still, those aren't in hand yet, but we've got this comic version of the Cobra B.A.T as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. So while in a vacuum, I probably wouldn't have bought this figure, the fact that it's the first G.I. Joe Ultimates figure was kind of a good enough reason to pick this one up to try and just get a sense of what we can expect from the G.I. Joe Ultimates line from Super 7. Compared to the Mattel experience, the Super 7 one was super easy and stress-free. The only problem was having to walk all the way to the Super 7 store, which is not all that close to the convention center. So other than that, it was a super easy purchasing experience. On preview night, I got my Cobra coin, which was how you were supposed to get in at 9 o'clock on preview night at the Super 7 store. But there's always a crazy line there, and I've always found that I can go the next day or the day after, and it's a lot more chill, which is what you saw in my walkthrough video of the Cobra store. So if you've bought an Ultimates figure before, it's taken a very similar approach. You have an outer cardboard sleeve with G.I. Joe and the Cobra B.A.T here on the top, some information on the back. But when you take it out of that box, you have the standard shape of the Super 7 Ultimates packaging. It's kind of in this trapezoidal frame. They've been using it since the beginning, and while I have grown tired of it in the TMNT line, I think it looks really cool here for this Comic-Con exclusive Cobra B.A.T in its comic deco, because it has a shiny foil-like appearance, even has some wear on it as well, which is kind of cool. I really love the premium feel with this packaging versus the Turtles packaging, which is green and it just kind of becomes monochrome and boring. So I really like the outer sleeve of this, and again, you just pull up that outer sleeve and then you get to look at the figure inside. And really, even in the package, this figure looks really impressive. Tons of paint applications. I love the kind of light blue silver paint applications throughout. Super 7 is somewhat notorious for not really going for the shiny metallic paints, so I'm glad to see it here on this Comic-Con exclusive Cobra B.A.T. Now, this is blue to kind of have the look of the comic version of the Cobra B.A.T. Now, I am not a huge comic book G.I. Joe aficionado, but looking at images, it does seem to kind of capture that look of the character. So, I'm much more of a action figure and toy fan, so I would much rather prefer the classic B.A.T look. But if you are a big fan of this look, I think you're getting a very good version of it. On the back of the box, you get a different take on the file card. You do get a definition for what the Battle Android Troopers are, the B.A.T.S. And yeah, I love that approach. I hope they do it with the rest of the Ultimates G.I. Joe line. But again, unlike the Turtles one, which I find boring at this point, this is a really nice, fresh use of the classic Super 7 Ultimates packaging. All right, enough talking about it inside of the box. Let's get it out of the box and see how this thing actually looks in hand. And actually, oh, there's no tape on here. So I guess for the Comic-Con edition, they didn't want to put any tape there, which is fine by me. The less things preventing me from getting this figure out of the box, the better is my policy. So you generally, on an Ultimates figure, have two layers, two trays, a back tray for some of the bigger accessories, which we have here with this B.A.T figure. I also love that we have the classic G.I. Joe burst in the background of that box. I think that's, again, a perfect use of the G.I. Joe iconography with the standard Ultimates packaging. And we've got our figure here in the front with a ton of accessories. So let's just get it out and get all the accessories out as well. Again, I love that there isn't a bunch of tape and different plastic harnesses that just end up being extra clutter and trash for a figure opener like me. Less is always more in terms of figure packaging. So I do appreciate that. And luckily everything has come out pretty easily too. All right, taking him out of the box and getting him in hand and holding in hand a Super 7 G.I. Joe Ultimates figure for the first time. It feels pretty good. Now, again, I think there's a fair critique to be made about Super 7's approach to articulation, especially when compared to the very modern approach that the G.I. Joe Classified series has taken with pinless joints and all of that good stuff. So, you know, you only got single jointed knees, and with this gun attachment or this gun holster here, you don't really have too much flexibility on moving the leg outwards on this side. I mean, it is pinless here as well, so you're not seeing any pins in the ankles. And there is a little bit of rocker here to the feet as well. And you got, it's not really an ab crunch, it's more like a belly crunch. So you do get some movement there, but it is going to be a little bit more limited than what you're going to see on a G.I. Joe Classified figure. But again, in hand, you know, just kind of posing it a little bit, it's pretty good. But I will readily admit I am not as into tons of points of articulation as other figure collectors are. I'm pretty, you know, boring when it comes to displaying my figures. I like getting dynamic poses, but I don't need extreme poses. So in hand, the articulation doesn't seem like a limiting factor to me. It is a lot bigger. And, you know, the actual look of all of these pieces that are sculpted on this figure is definitely different than the Classified series. And that's by intention. The Ultimate series is trying to be a collector figure version of the Sunbow characters, you know, from the cartoon series, where Classified is kind of like a hyper realistic, modern take on the G.I. Joe franchise. So, you know, I think there's enough difference between the two that, you know, you can be a Classified collector and be totally okay not going for the Ultimates line. Or you could be somebody that's like, I've always wanted, you know, Sunbow accurate versions of the figures, but to be a collector figure line. Well, this will be a great line for you then in that situation. I think Super 7 has smartly allowed themselves to have their own playground for G.I. Joe in the collector figure market, and doing the more Sunbow style is, you know, that perfect lane for them, and then allows Classified to be the awesome line that it is without trying to compete with each other. Much like how I prefer the Super 7 Turtle line because it captures the look of the action figures, the vintage action figures, versus the NECA Toon line, which is an amazing toy line, almost like this G.I. Joe line focuses on the cartoon and not the action figures. And collectors have their choice, and more choices is always a good thing as far as toy collecting goes, or really anything in life. So again, it stands up really well. It's nice and sturdy. It is, you know, a 7-inch scale figure. So it is a lot taller. Let me move all that stuff out of the way, just get a clean shot of this. It is, you know, a lot taller than the Classified figure. But again, one is a 6-inch scale, one is a 7-inch scale. But if you're hoping that some Ultimates figures could be in your Classified collection and fit in just fine, I don't know if that'll necessarily work. I mean, you can kind of do some depth of field trickery and stuff like that in your display. But in general, they are pretty two distinctly different scales here. And again, I think that's okay. But I think just to make sure you're aware that Ultimates, this is much bigger than a Classified figure. But still, just, you know, moving this thing around and displaying the joints are great. I love the double articulated neck joint. Kind of gives you a ton of different, you know, looks and movements there. So for a figure that I was concerned would be really limited in articulation, and in some ways it probably will be compared to a Classified, I still think you get some really nice poses with this thing, and it looks really awesome. And it's kind of just fun, you know, just playing with it right now on camera. I'm having a ton of fun with this figure. If articulation was our big concern, I think those concerns can be put to rest. I think it honestly poses and is able to display really nicely. I'm not going to say it's going to even come close to the posability that you get with this figure. Now, another factor here when you're looking at these side by side is price. You know, this is a $55 figure. These have gone up a bit, but this was originally a $20 figure. So are you getting an extra $35 worth of stuff with a set? Well, it is a bigger figure. I do think you're getting nicer paint applications than we are on this retail Bats. You know, it does have paint apps. I'm not saying it doesn't, but this has the paint applications of a major retail release versus this one feels a little bit more premium in hand. Now, this is just one figure. I don't have Wave 1 in hand, but still, just this one on its own, I think looks really good. Like, all the paint appointments look pretty sharp. And again, a Bat's head sculpt is not that dynamic. There's not a lot to do, so it's probably a good first one for them to feature here. But even on the battle damage head, the paint applications are really nice and crisp and have a premium feel to them. So I do think this is more premium. Is it, you know, an extra $35 in premium? Well, let's look at the extra accessories. I think it's a fair criticism that Super 7 adds way too many extra accessories. You know, if they could cut some of those back and lower the price a little bit, I think we would all want that versus, you know, 75 hands and $55 a figure, sometimes $65 a figure. But with the Bats, you know, it is by design supposed to have a bunch of different hand and arm accessories. So I'm okay with that on this figure. So we've got this hand cannon, we've got a drill, we got a claw, and then we've got, again, a bunch of hands. Do we need this many hands?
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Maybe 2 extra would have sufficed. Again, I don't know if that would have reduced the price all that much, but, you know, just something to know. And then we actually have a real gun. This one is a little bit warped. They might have put it in the package, you know, while it was still warm, hot off the presses. We've got an attachment that can go onto its chest to kind of signify that it is broken. I love that it's a clear window here, so we can see the bits inside, versus the classified one. You have to basically take the front plate off to kind of get the look on the inside. Now, I know some customizers have made see-through plates for your classified Bats, but here it is just standard, and it's nice and clear. And then you're able to add this little, like, you know, damaged effect. Let's see how oh, that was super easy to take the head off. And then, you know, put the new head on, and, you know, so you've got your damaged Bats figure, which is pretty cool. Let's try to swap out some of the hands, see how easy that is. And we'll put this kind of open hand there. I like that it's at the wrist, so it allows the full wrist articulation. It's pretty easy to swap out. And let's do, I like having the claw on there. The claw. But yeah, so super easy to swap out those extra accessories. And again, to me, you know, even though I'm a grown man that collects toys, playability is an important factor, even with, you know, adult collector toys. Because it's the fun is in the posing, the fun is in setting up your display. All right, let's attach his backpack, and he has 2 little kind of slots right there, and he has 2 different ones to choose from. Probably more his standard issue style. It's a little bit of a tight fit, and it's not a perfect fit getting it on there, but it is able to get on there. And then we can add some of his extra, you know, drill bits and stuff like that in here, which again evokes the original action figure and anyone after it approach. I will say the slots in here for these are a little stiff. So I would have preferred maybe a softer plastic, just a tad softer, because this is a really hard plastic, so I'm having a harder time getting these accessories in, and I don't like hearing that almost plastic breaking noise, because I would worry about the long-term effects of that. So, you know, on engineering of the backpack, it's not perfect. So just something of note. We'll put the smaller gun in the holster here. I went into this not expecting to be a fan, and so, you know, kudos on this figure, I gotta say. We have this cool barrel attachment, and we've got his little bombs in there. So more display and look options here. Oh, see, and then it just breaks off. That's my problem with it being so tight. That's so again, so that's a flaw. That's a design flaw. It's only a little piece of glue right there, and they've chosen to glue really hard plastic on the packs, and that's so tiny of a point to connect the backpack to. So beware. I wasn't going to display it with this backpack anyway, but now I'm even more concerned on this one. When you've used really hard plastic with this, it's kind of rigid but soft at the same time, and it's glued on. That is a flaw, especially when you kind of have to stretch it a little bit to get it to fit into these two top slots. So that is a bummer. And hopefully, this is the first ever one that we're getting. But, for Super 7 and company, I think they need to look into that, because that is a problem. So when you're putting yours together, be careful with that backpack. All right, so aside from my issue with this breaking as I was trying to attach it, now can you say I was maybe being a little too tough with it, but I wasn't being that hard with it. It should be able to easily attach and unattach without the threat of breaking. But other than that issue, this is a really fun toy. And I know there's criticisms for Super 7's approach to articulation, but I do believe the kind of lower belly cut, as well as the articulation in the head and the arms, and the premium paint appointments that I'm seeing here, especially with the metallic finish on all of the metallic surfaces that we see on this figure, I think it is a really solid entry and opening to the G.I. Joe Ultimates toy line from Super 7. And does it supplant Classified? No, this is way cheaper, hyper articulated, has fantastic sculpting, vehicles, all of that kind of stuff. But why? For some people, maybe you do both. Or if you want one that has more of this look, I think this is a great toy line, and I don't think it should be slept on. So for me, really glad that I actually picked this one up. I debated it going into the con, but this is just a really fun toy regardless of property. And outside of one major issue with this attachment, very happy with the approach and look and feel and playability of this toy. So it absolutely gets the Geek Dad Life buy rating, and now I have the tough decision of whether or not to buy more of these G.I. Joe Ultimates. Let me know down in the comment sections below what you think of this first G.I. Joe Ultimates figure, or what you think about G.I. Joe Ultimates in general. Overall, this thing really impressed me more than I thought it would, and I'm thankful that I picked it up at the Super 7 Cobra Takeover store in downtown San Diego. I want to thank the people that make this show possible, my patrons. You can find a full list of them right here. If you'd like to help this channel grow, become a patron today at patreon.com/geekdadlife. Definitely check out my Comic-Con playlist, as well as this video that YouTube wants you to check out. And until next time, hasta luego, and goodbye.